Before the millions of fans, before the viral subathon that broke records, before the crown of King of Twitch, there was just a kid from the Bronx with a dream, a camera, and a plan. This is where the story of Kai Cenate begins. Kai Carlos Cenat III was born on December 16, 2001, in the bustling heart of New York City, raised in the Bronx alongside his twin sister and two brothers. Kai's upbringing was filled with both chaos and community, the kind of energy only a big city and a close family can provide. But life wasn't always easy. After his parents split, there was a period where Kai and his family lived in a shelter down in Georgia. For a while, stability seemed like a luxury, not a guarantee. But when they returned to New York, when they settled back into the Bronx, things finally began to feel normal again. When I was in the Bronx is when things started to, feel normal. Kai would later reflect. I started to feel like a normal. Things started to go a little easier than usual. The struggles of his early life didn't harden him. They fueled him. From a young age, Kai was drawn to entertainment. He wasn't shy. He wasn't quiet. He had a gift, an energy that refused to be contained. And even in middle school, around the age of 13, he found a way to channel it. He started posting comedic skits on Facebook. These weren't polished productions. They were raw, homemade videos, jokes filmed on the fly, skits cooked up between homework assignments and family dinners. But even then, it was clear Kai had something. The videos caught on. Friends shared them. Neighbors laughed. Word spread. Kai was a star, at least on Facebook. But Facebook wasn't enough. The platform was fading among younger users, and Kai knew he had to evolve. He moved to Instagram, chasing a new audience with even shorter, sharper clips. Still, something wasn't sitting right. The short videos felt limiting, too small to fit his enormous personality. Fans wanted more. Kai wanted more. And so on January 13, 2018, at the age of 16, he made a decision that would change his life forever. He uploaded his first YouTube video. "Why don't you have a YouTube channel?" a friend had once asked. Kai didn't have an answer back then, but now he did. He wasn't going to be just a local funny guy anymore. He was ready to build an empire. Those early YouTube videos were chaotic and hilarious. Kai pulling pranks, Kai reacting to random moments, Kai's authentic, no-holds-barred energy bursting through the screen. They weren't professional. They weren't perfect, but they were real, and people loved it. For the next couple of years, Kai balanced two lives. There was the regular kid navigating high school, family expectations, and the grind of daily life. And then there was the rising creator pouring hours into content, building an audience one video at a time. It wasn't easy. Kai went to college after high school, enrolling in Morrisville State College upstate. But soon, a tension began to grow inside him. While he sat in classrooms, listening to lectures, his mind raced with video ideas. His audience was growing. His dreams were calling. Eventually, he couldn't ignore it anymore. Kai dropped out of college. It wasn't a rash decision. It wasn't rebellion. It was a sacrifice. "When you know that something is holding you back from getting to the next level," he said, "you just have to sacrifice that." He admitted he'd miss college, the friendships, the daily adventures. But deep down he knew staying meant slowing down. Leaving meant leaping forward. And Kai was never the type to play it safe. In 2020, as he committed fully to content creation, Kai's world expanded. He joined a collective of creators called AMP, short for Any Means Possible. AMP wasn't just a group of YouTubers filming together. It was a brotherhood, a movement. Even though Kai wasn't one of the founding members, the team quickly recognized his spark. They saw the way he threw himself into every bit, every challenge, every idea without hesitation. There's a story from early AMP days, One night, the crew dared someone to jump into the pool during a shoot. Everyone hesitated, laughing, making excuses, except for Kai. No hesitation, he just did it. It really showed me he had no fears. One of his AMP teammates recalled, he just went for it. That fearlessness would become one of Kai's trademarks. Whether it was pranking strangers, taking insane dares, or later interviewing celebrities, he attacked every opportunity with the same reckless, infectious energy. The bigger the moment, the bigger Kai showed up. By now, the pandemic had forced millions of people indoors. Screens became lifelines. YouTube, TikTok, and Twitch became second homes. And Kai realized it was time to expand again. Streaming. Twitch wasn't new in 2020. It was already home to massive names, gamers, entertainers, musicians. But for Kai, Twitch was uncharted territory. Still, he had a plan. On his very first Twitch stream, Kai didn't start from zero. He brought his loyal YouTube following with him. In one night, he pulled over 1,500 followers, a number many streamers dream of hitting after months of grinding, and that was just the beginning. Kai didn't approach streaming like most people, where others treated it casually. Gaming here, chatting there, Kai treated every stream like a show, high energy, constant engagement, wild reactions. He didn't just sit back and play games. He turned each stream into an experience. At first glance, it looked like the usual Twitch formula, gaming, reacting to videos, telling jokes. But underneath it all, Kai was engineering something bigger. Every event was carefully thought out. Every collaboration was strategic. Every moment was building towards something. Kai wasn't just streaming. He was building an empire. Throughout 2021, the numbers climbed. Tens of thousands of followers turned into hundreds of thousands. Clips from his streams spread across TikTok and Twitter like wildfire. It wasn't one viral moment. It was hundreds of small wins adding up day by day. A prank gone wrong. A freestyle that turned into a meme. A reaction so loud it shook the internet. Kai's name wasn't just known. It was everywhere. Still, he never lost his hunger. Most creators, when they find success, settle into a rhythm. They find what works, and they stick with it. But not Kai. He pushed harder, bigger streams, crazier ideas, longer hours, subathons, IRL streams, celebrity guest appearances, anything to keep raising the bar. What's going to separate you from everybody else, Kai once said, is will you keep going, or will you just stop? Kai wasn't stopping. Not now. Not ever. There were challenges, of course. Trolls, drama, the constant pressure of staying relevant. Streaming isn't easy. It's hours of performing every day, with thousands watching your every move. Every word clipped, every joke judged, every mistake magnified. But Kai handled it the way he handled everything else, with relentless energy and an unstoppable sense of humor. He laughed, he danced, he pushed through, and by the end of 2021, he wasn't just a successful streamer, he was a phenomenon. Looking back now, it's almost surreal. From Facebook skits filmed on a borrowed phone, to YouTube uploads edited late at night in a dorm room, to Twitch streams that pulled in audiences the size of stadiums. Every step was deliberate, every move part of a bigger vision. Kai Cenate didn't stumble into fame. He built it, brick by brick, skit by skit, stream by stream. And he was just getting started. The world had seen glimpses of his brilliance, but they hadn't seen anything yet. Because the next chapter wasn't just about growth. It was about history. We'll dive into Kai's domination of Twitch, his record-breaking subathon, and how a kid from the Bronx rewrote the rules of internet fame. But for now, we leave him here, young, hungry, fearless, standing at the edge of a future even he could barely imagine. When we last left Kai Cenat, he was rising fast. A kid from the Bronx who had turned a childhood of skits and small wins into a real shot at internet stardom. But in 2022, Kai didn't just rise. He didn't just succeed. He rewrote the rules of what success could even look like. This is the story of how Kai Cenat conquered Twitch and the world. 2022 started with momentum already behind him. His Twitch streams were growing bigger every week. The TikTok clips were spreading faster. The YouTube uploads were hitting harder, but Kai wasn't satisfied. He knew what was at stake. In a world where creators fade overnight, it's not enough to be hot for a moment. He wanted to be historic, and so he did what Kai Cenat has always done best. He planned. First came the collaborations. While most streamers stayed in their own bubbles, Kai made it a point to branch out. He started pulling in musicians, actors, influencers, big names that most Twitch audiences weren't used to seeing. Lil Baby, Neneli Choppa, 21 Savage, and countless others. These weren't stiff, awkward interviews either. Kai didn't treat them like celebrities. He treated them like friends. He joked with them, pranked them, made them play games and dance on stream. He turned every visit into an event and made sure the audience felt like they were in the room too. In a world that craves authenticity, Kai's energy was magnetic, unpolished, real, fun. Every celebrity who stopped by left a little more humanized, and every viewer left wanting to come back. Meanwhile, the Amp Mansion era was in full swing. Kai and his Amp brothers Duke Dennis, Agent 00, Phantom, Chris Next Door, and others had moved into a sprawling house in Georgia. It was the content creator's dream setup. Giant backyard, multiple floors, room after room of possibilities. Every day brought new chaos, pranks, challenges, skits, competitions. It was a non-stop circus of creativity, and Kai thrived in it. The mansion became more than just a house. It became a brand. Fans tuned in religiously, waiting to see what madness would unfold next. Whether it was a fake kidnapping prank or a cook-off turned food fight, the energy never dipped. Kai was not just streaming games anymore. He was creating moments, and he was everywhere. But even with all the success, Kai's goals were bigger. He wanted to make history, and so he set his sights on something no one had ever truly done before on his level: a 30-day live stream, an entire month of broadcasting his life, 24/7, a subathon. February 1st, 2023, the day it all began, Carmelf went live, and he didn't plan to stop until 30 days later. He wasn't the first to try a subathon. Others like Ludwig had done it before. But Kai had a plan. Every day had activities scheduled, special guests lined up, games to play, challenges to complete. Where most subathons felt accidental, dragged out longer and longer by last-minute decisions, Kai's was intentional. He knew what he was building. The subathon quickly became the event of the internet. Tens of thousands of viewers tuned in, day after day, watching Kai sleep, eat, joke, cry, laugh, win, lose. There were high moments. Emotional speeches, surprise gifts, record-breaking streams. There were low moments too, exhaustion setting in, technical issues, moments of loneliness. But through it all, Kai stayed Kai, relatable, unfiltered, unstoppable. As the month rolled on, the subscriber count climbed: 50,000, 100,000, 200,000. The energy online was electric. Clips of Kai's antics, dancing at 3 a.m., cooking disastrous meals, pulling pranks with friends, spread across social media like wildfire. He wasn't just breaking records, he was creating culture. And then, it happened. On February 28th, 2023, Kai Cenat officially broke the all-time Twitch subscriber record, previously held by Ludwig, surpassing over 300,000 active subs. He became the most subscribed Twitch streamer in history. And not just that, he became the first black streamer to ever hold the crown. In the middle of Black History Month, it wasn't just a win for Kai, it was a win for everyone who had ever felt overlooked, underestimated, doubted. "I just want to say," Kai said, wiping away tears, "making history in Black History Month is crazy to me." It was a moment that felt bigger than Twitch, bigger than content creation. It felt historic. But even as Kai celebrated, cracks were beginning to show. Twitch, the platform he had just put on his back, wasn't reacting the way many expected. Instead of a lucrative contract, instead of a major public celebration, Kai received a pair of custom sneakers, a gesture that felt painfully small. "They probably thought they were really cool," one observer noted. But it was tone-deaf. Kai had just shattered records, brought millions of new eyes to Twitch, and rewritten what was possible. And yet Twitch treated him like he was disposable. The frustration was palpable, not just for Kai but for his entire community. Why wasn't Twitch recognizing their biggest star? Why wasn't the platform doing everything it could to keep him? Still, Kai didn't let the slight define him, because Kai Cenat wasn't built on corporate approval. He was built on community, and that community kept showing up. In March 2023, Kai was named Streamer of the Year for the second time at the Streamer Awards. This time the win felt even sweeter, because it wasn't just about numbers anymore, it was about impact. Kai wasn't just a top creator, he was the creator, a symbol of what hard work, authenticity, and pure energy could achieve. As the subathon ended, Kai stood on top of the world. Millions of followers across every platform, celebrities begging to collab, a community larger and more loyal than ever. At just 21 years old, Kai Cenat had reached heights few had even dared to dream about. But if you think he was satisfied, you don't know Kai, because for him this wasn't the end of the plan, it was just the beginning. Behind the scenes, Kai was already thinking bigger, building his brand, exploring other platforms, laying the groundwork for the next evolution of his career. He wasn't content to be just a streamer. He wanted to be an icon, a name spoken in the same breath as the greats. And he knew that meant leveling up again, smarter, harder, bigger than ever before. "I don't even care about the money," Kai once said. "I care about the milestones." And the next milestone, it was already in sight. As 2023 turned into 2024 and beyond, Kai Cenat's story only grew more extraordinary. More brand deals, more collabs, more influence across the entire internet culture. But at his core, he stayed the same, the kid from the Bronx, the joker who jumped in the pool without thinking, the streamer who turned a Facebook skit into a global movement, the king who built his own crown, and the king who wasn't done yet. We'll dive into Kai's expansion beyond Twitch, his battles with platform restrictions, his ventures into acting and music, and his journey toward becoming not just an internet star, but a global icon. But for now, we leave him here, on the mountaintop, holding a crown only he could have forged, smiling that same mischievous smile he had back in middle school. The dream was real, and Kai Cenat was just getting started. By early 2023, Kai Cenat had already done what most thought impossible. He broke records. He won back-to-back Streamer of the Year awards. He made Twitch history and did it with style, humor, and relentless grind. But something was shifting, not just in Kai's career, but in Kai himself. The platform that helped him rise didn't seem to value what he built, and so for the first time Kai started looking beyond Twitch. It began quietly, After the legendary subathon, Kai took some time to reflect. The celebration was loud, sure, the clips, the fan edits, the press coverage, but Twitch itself, silent. No exclusive deal, no featured recognition, no real thank you, other than a pair of custom sneakers. To most fans, it felt like an insult. To Kai, it felt like clarity. He realized Twitch was the stage, but he was the show. As spring turned to summer, Kai remained loyal. He kept streaming, kept collaborating, kept entertaining his millions of fans. But behind the scenes, he was laying the foundation for something more. The word streamer was starting to feel small. Kai wasn't just going viral anymore. He was going global. First came the brand expansions. Kai began teasing merch, not just typical YouTuber dropship t-shirts, but curated pieces, lifestyle-driven, stylish, streetwear influenced. He wanted fans to feel like they were part of something bigger than a channel. He wanted a movement. At the same time, Kai's music taste, already a central part of his streams, began to evolve into something more hands-on. He started previewing original tracks, not as a joke. As an artist, suddenly people realized he wasn't just reacting to music anymore, he was making it. In interviews, Kai spoke more about legacy, not just milestones, not just viewership, but impact. "I want to be remembered as someone who did it his way," he said, and opened doors for other people to do the same. The statement wasn't flashy, it was focused, intentional. Kai was shifting from viral entertainer to empire builder. The rest of 2023 and early 2024 was about diversifying. He experimented with YouTube long form again, blending vlog-style energy with cinematic edits. He started popping up in unexpected places, acting classes, movie sets, red carpets. There were rumors, Netflix collabs, scripted shows, animated voiceover roles. And while not every project was public, the signs were there. Kai Cenat was transitioning from streamer to mainstream star, and the world was starting to notice. He attended more award shows, not just as a nominee, but as a guest of honor. He showed up courtside at NBA games, mic'd up and making everyone laugh. He dropped videos with major artists, not just as a YouTuber, but as a peer. Everything he touched turned into a moment. Even his appearances at public events caused chaos, fans rushing to meet him, police shutting down streets, entire cities vibrating with energy. At one point, a meetup in Atlanta was so swarmed with people that local authorities had to disperse the crowd for safety. This wasn't fandom, it was frenzy. Meanwhile, Twitch continued to fumble. Despite Kai remaining their biggest star, still drawing tens of thousands per stream, the platform never sealed the deal. No official contract, no investment in what he was building, no recognition at the scale he earned. And so whispers began. Would Kai leave Twitch? By mid-2024, Kai started streaming occasionally on Kick, the rising platform known for offering creators better contracts, more freedom, and looser restrictions. The streams were casual, fun, but they were also symbolic. Kai was testing the waters. At the same time, he strengthened his YouTube presence, expanding into short-form content, podcasts, behind-the-scenes footage, and lifestyle clips. He understood the algorithm, he understood momentum, and most importantly, he understood how to build community anywhere. Behind the scenes, Kai's team was growing. Managers, brand partners, developers, designers. What started as a one-man mission in the Bronx was now a full-fledged company, quietly working to turn the KC3 name into a multimedia brand. Rumors circulated that he was developing a podcast studio. Others claimed he was in talks with major production companies to create original series. One thing was clear, Kai wasn't waiting for platforms to give him opportunities. He was building his own. And while all this was happening, Kai never stopped being Kai. He still danced on stream, still pulled pranks, still raged at video games, still laughed so hard he nearly fell out of frame. That's what made him different. But as he scaled up, got more famous, more business savvy, more global, he never lost the soul of what made people love him. He was funny. He was relatable. He was real. And in a world where everyone's trying to go viral, authenticity is the rarest currency of all. Kai had it in buckets. By the end of 2024, his empire had multiple branches: streaming, music, fashion, production, community. He was working on a docu-series about his rise, a collab clothing line with a major streetwear label, and whispers of a feature-length film role floated through industry circles. He wasn't just moving across platforms, he was moving across industries. And yet, despite all the fame, all the money, all the success, Kai kept the same mindset. "I'm just a dude who started making skits on Facebook," he once said. "I just never stopped." Maybe that's the secret. While others chase relevance, Kai builds it. While others try to go viral, Kai shows up every day. And while others play the game, Kai writes the rules. As 2023 turned into 2024 and beyond, Kai Cenat's story only grew more extraordinary. More brand deals, more collabs. We'll dive into the new era of Kai, how he's nurturing new creators, building generational wealth, and planning for a legacy that lasts far beyond the internet. But for now, we leave him here, sitting in front of a mic, surrounded by friends, laughing at his own joke, and smiling like someone who knows the best is still to come. By 2025, Kai Cenat wasn't just a content creator. He wasn't just a streamer. He wasn't even just a celebrity anymore. He was a force, cultural, creative, generational. But where many would pause at the peak, bask in the glory, or settle into comfort, and not just for himself, he started building for everyone else too. The thing about true greatness is that it doesn't stop at the mirror. When you've climbed the mountain, when you've made history, when your name rings out across the world, the next question becomes, what do you do with it? For Kai, the answer was simple: you bring others up with you. Throughout late 2024 and into 2025, Kai shifted part of his focus towards something bigger than just content: community. He began mentoring younger creators, not on camera, not for views, but quietly behind the scenes. Small streamers, upcoming comedians, music artists with raw potential. Kai started inviting them into his world, giving them platform, advice, and most importantly, belief. "It's not just about me anymore," he said. "It's about showing people this is possible." He knew how hard it was in the beginning, making skits on a borrowed phone, streaming to an audience of zero, getting clowned for having too much energy. Now that he was on top, Kai didn't gatekeep the formula. He shared it, and just like that, a new wave began forming. A wave Kai didn't just inspire, but helped guide. Some called it the KC3 tree, a new generation of talent that traced its roots back to Kai. And that wasn't by accident, that was by design. But mentorship wasn't the only thing Kai was planning. He was thinking about wealth, ownership, legacy. Because fame fades, numbers fluctuate, but structure, ownership, that lasts. And so Kai began investing. He was quiet about most of it. The smartest builders usually are, but those paying attention saw the moves. He partnered with companies, not just as talent, but as a stakeholder. He launched limited-run streetwear pieces, not cheap cash grabs, but capsule drops with meaning, designed by real artists. There were whispers of a creative agency forming under the KC3 name, a production company, a studio space for creators. He wasn't just building content anymore, he was building infrastructure. In early 2025, a clip from one of Kai's streams went viral. He was speaking directly to the camera. No jokes, no filters, just honesty. "There's gonna come a time," he said, "where I'm not streaming every night, where I'm not the main show. But if I do this right, y'all gonna see the next Kai, and I'll be the one who helped them get there." It was quiet for a second, then the chat exploded, because everyone watching knew this wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning of something bigger. Kai started organizing meetups again, not for views but for connection. Pop-ups in cities across the US, giveaways, live games, merch signings, surprise appearances. Every time the turnout was massive. Kids, parents, teens, creators, influencers, all coming out for Kai, not just to see a streamer. But it wasn't just about lifting individuals, it was about infrastructure. Throughout 2024, rumors swirled about Kai investing in creator houses, not for content clout, but for stability. Places where young streamers could live, learn, and create without worrying about rent, Wi-Fi bills, or food. He didn't want the next him to wait for a brand deal or a Twitch check to make things happen. He wanted to build the ladder he never had. And in quiet moments, off camera, he did just that. He also began experimenting with education, not the traditional kind, but real-life knowledge, financial literacy, branding, contract negotiation, mental health awareness, stuff most creators never get taught until it's too late. Kai wasn't trying to preach, he was trying to prepare, because he'd seen too many friends go viral and go broke. He'd seen creators rise fast and burn out faster. He wanted to change that cycle. At the same time, Kai's business moves got sharper. He wasn't just a streamer anymore, he was a CEO. The KC3 brand expanded beyond merch. He reportedly began developing a creator management agency, one that actually protected talent. There were whispers about him funding a podcast network. He even teased a platform of his own, something built by creators for creators, without the broken systems that plagued places like Twitch. He'd learned from watching other platforms fail to reward their stars, and now he wanted to build something better. Still, Kai never lost his joy. Even with all the business meetings, brand partnerships, and behind-the-scenes power moves, he still went live, still cracked jokes, still screamed at jump scares, still laughed so hard he had to turn off the camera. His community noticed. They knew he was busier, more in demand than ever, but he showed up anyway, not for the algorithm, for the people. That's why his stream still felt alive, still unpredictable, still home. One of the most defining shifts in this era of Kai wasn't just what he was doing, it was how he was thinking. He started speaking more publicly about balance, about the mental toll of streaming, the loneliness of internet fame, the pressure of always being on. He admitted that sometimes, even when the numbers were great, the feeling wasn't. You could have 100,000 people watching you and still feel alone, he said in a late-night stream. That's the part they don't tell you. Instead of hiding it, Kai leaned in. He made space for those conversations. He told fans to take breaks. He took them himself. It was a different kind of leadership, one rooted not just in success, but in sustainability. Meanwhile, his influence outside the internet kept growing. He showed up on magazine covers, appeared in brand campaigns for fashion labels and sneaker giants, performed at music festivals, not as a guest, as a headliner. He teased a full-length album, worked on film projects behind the scenes, even hinted at writing a book, part memoir, part manifesto. And yet, through all of it, he never pretended to be anything he wasn't. He still talked like a kid from the Bronx, still made dumb jokes, still wore his favorite hoodies, even on red carpets. That's what made him different. He didn't trade relatability for relevance. He made them work together. And his audience? They grew with him. Some who started watching Kai back in 2020 were now in college, working jobs, raising families, and they still tuned in because they didn't just grow up with Kai, they grew up because of him. By early 2025, something had become clear. Kai Cenat was no longer just a content creator. He was a culture shaper, someone whose choices rippled across the industry, someone whose voice held weight, someone who wasn't afraid to use it. And while others obsessed over clout or controversy, Kai stayed focused on the long game, the legacy. We'll explore the risks that came with that power, the controversies, challenges, and defining tests that threatened to unravel what he built, and how Kai faced them with the same fire, fearlessness, and faith that brought him this far. But for now, we leave him here, at peace, in his lane, moving quietly, but with a presence loud enough to shake the industry, still streaming, still smiling, still building, and always one step ahead. By 2025, Kai Cenat was no longer just a streamer. He was a household name, a walking headline, a face that appeared in timelines, interviews, festivals, and Forbes lists. He had fame, he had fans, he had power, but with all of it came something else. And the more Kai grew, the louder that pressure became. For a long time, Kai had made it look easy. From skits on Facebook to dominating Twitch to building his own empire, it all seemed like one big laugh, one long stream of joy, energy, and success. But even the strongest personalities bend under constant spotlight, and as 2023 turned into 2024, the cracks began to show, not as failures but as humanity. It started with controversy. Like every major online figure, Kai was pulled into headlines that didn't always paint him in the best light. Some clips were taken out of context. Others showed raw moments, mistakes, emotional outbursts, arguments, and sometimes it wasn't about what Kai did, but what people expected him to say or condemn. When drama unfolded in the streaming world, whether involving friends, collaborators, or the platforms themselves, people looked to Kai for a response. But being the biggest doesn't make you the wisest, and Kai, still in his early 20s, was learning on the fly. Sometimes he spoke up, sometimes he stayed quiet, sometimes he reacted live, not with PR polish, but with real emotion. And that's what made things complicated, because Kai's rawness was what people loved about him. But it also meant that when things got serious, the line between entertainment and real life blurred quickly. One moment that sparked heavy conversation came during a late-night stream, when a heated debate between guests spiraled into shouting, insults, and chaos. It wasn't Kai who said anything offensive, but the clip went viral anyway. People questioned his judgment, his boundaries, his responsibility as a host. It wasn't the first time, and it wouldn't be the last. To his credit, Kai didn't deflect. "I take full responsibility for my space," he said in a follow-up. "If something happens on my stream, it's on me. I'm still learning. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying." That's what separated him from many. He didn't pretend to be untouchable. He didn't weaponize his audience against critics. He listened. He reflected. He moved forward. And while the internet often thrives on tearing people down, Kai's transparency helped many of his supporters stick around, not because he was flawless, but because he was accountable. But it wasn't just public pressure Kai was battling. It was internal. Fame, by nature, isolates. The more people admire you, the harder it is to know who to trust. And even surrounded by fans, friends, and followers, Kai sometimes felt alone. It gets weird sometimes, he admitted in a rare off-camera interview. Everyone wants a piece of you, everyone expects something. You don't know if people love you or love the version of you they made up. He wasn't complaining, he was just telling the truth. So he adapted. He set firmer boundaries, took days off, spent more time offline with family and close friends. Learned to say no, not because he didn't care, but because he had to protect the parts of himself the internet didn't own. But even in retreat, Kai didn't disconnect from his people. He became more intentional. When he did go live, it mattered. When he did show up, it felt earned. And when he did speak, it landed. Because over time, Kai's audience had grown up with him. They weren't just looking for hype anymore. They were looking for honesty, and he gave it to them in bits, in glimpses, in imperfect moments that felt more real than any viral clip ever could. Of course, not every challenge was personal. As his influence grew, so did the corporate pressure. Brands wanted him to tone things down. Platforms tried to control how and when he streamed. Contracts got more complicated. Politics crept into everything. Suddenly, every joke had to be calculated. Every post had to be edited. Every move had a consequence. It was the price of power, and Kai had to decide every day how to navigate it without losing himself. He wasn't perfect. There were moments where he reacted too fast, said too much, or held back too long. But that's the thing about pressure. It doesn't break everyone. Sometimes it refines them. Kai emerged from these challenges not smaller, but stronger. He started surrounding himself with advisors he trusted. He built a tighter team, made smarter decisions, got better at picking battles. He stopped trying to be everything for everyone and started focusing on being true to himself. That's what growth looked like. Not louder streams, not flashier outfits, but boundaries, balance, wisdom. By the time 2025 arrived, Kai's maturity was undeniable. His content still brought the laughs. His streams were still chaotic, but there was a new depth to him, a steadiness behind the scenes that showed someone no longer just chasing success, but leading it. We'll explore Kai's evolution into a full-fledged cultural icon, his relationship with mainstream media, his expansion into scripted entertainment, and how he started laying the groundwork for generational wealth and creative freedom. But for now, we leave him here, not in the middle of a storm, but having just weathered one, more grounded, more focused, and more determined than ever to build a legacy not just worth watching, but worth remembering. By 2025, Kai Cenat wasn't just streaming culture anymore. He was shaping it. He'd become the face of Gen Z online energy, a king of Twitch, a leader of creators, a voice that moved numbers. But now he was stepping beyond the platforms where he started. This wasn't a pivot. This was a takeover. It began with acting, not the typical influencer skits or TikTok cameos. Real scripts, real sets, real stakes. Kai started training behind the scenes, working with coaches, reading screenplays, testing his range. He wasn't trying to skip the grind. He respected the craft, and the industry noticed. By late 2024, casting directors were talking. Kai had charisma, timing, presence, and maybe most importantly, eyes, millions of them. Studios began to ask, could this streamer become a box office name? He started small, voiceover appearances, cameos in music videos, supporting roles in web series and streaming content. But he brought that same Kai spark to everything, that blend of humor, chaos, and heart. Nothing felt forced, nothing felt fake, and as the roles grew, so did the rumors. A role in a Netflix coming-of-age drama, talks with A24 for a gritty NYC indie, an animated show backed by a major network, rumored to be loosely based on his own life. He hadn't even gone fully Hollywood yet, but the door was open, wide. Meanwhile, another world had come calling. Fashion. Kai had always been stylish, from graphic tees and puffer coats in his early YouTube days, to custom fits during red carpets and collabs with artists. But now the brands were reaching out. Nike, Supreme, Gucci, not just for sponsorships, for creative input. Kai started modeling in streetwear campaigns, dropping limited edition pieces, designing with up-and-coming black-owned labels. It wasn't clout chasing, it was cultural. He knew that clothes weren't just fashion, they were identity, and Kai wanted to represent more than himself. One drop in late 2024, a capsule inspired by his Bronx roots and Haitian heritage, sold out in under an hour, not because it was loud, but because it was real. It told a story, and for many fans, wearing that piece felt like wearing a piece of his journey. Music, too, was evolving. Kai had always been deeply tied to the soundscape of the internet, dancing to drill beats, reacting to freestyles, screaming lyrics word for word. But now he was making music on his own terms. What started as meme freestyles turned into full tracks. Freestyles became sessions. Sessions became songs. Songs became projects. He wasn't trying to be a rapper. He was trying to express. And while critics debated whether it was serious or not, fans didn't care. They listened, they streamed, they sang along. Because once again, Kai wasn't selling perfection. He was offering connection. At this point, the mainstream couldn't ignore him. He was invited to panels about the future of digital media, booked for brand retreats and keynote events, interviewed by Rolling Stone, Complex, and even Bloomberg. What struck people wasn't just his success, it was his clarity. This whole time, he said in a podcast interview, "I wasn't just trying to be the biggest, I was trying to make sure that no matter what happens, I never got to go back to asking permission to be me." That mindset echoed in every move he made. He didn't wait for Hollywood, he made his own studio. He didn't beg for platform contracts. He built his own pipeline. He wasn't chasing every trend. He was building culture from scratch. And all of it, the brand deals, the billboards, the mainstream glow-up, still came back to the same core. Kai never stopped going live. Not because he needed the views, but because he missed the people. He still streamed the same way, ranting about food, telling childhood stories, barking at horror games, crying over anime. He still let fans see the Kai that started this whole thing. The Kai with the messy room. The Kai who accidentally unplugged his mic mid-sentence. The Kai who laughed at his own jokes before the punchline. In the middle of all the cameras and contracts, he stayed him. And because of that, something rare began to happen. Kai wasn't just seen as a content creator. He was seen as a mirror for his audience, for his generation, for anyone who ever dreamed of being something bigger without becoming someone else. By the start of 2025, people stopped asking, "Where did this kid come from?" and started asking, "What will he build next?" We'll explore how Kai began focusing on ownership, investing, launching creator-focused ventures, and planting seeds for a legacy far beyond entertainment. But for now, we leave him here, not in front of a console, but in a boardroom, a studio, a set, planning something, always planning something. Because even now, after everything, Kai Cenat is still just getting started. Fame is loud. Lascivious is loud. But ownership, that's quiet. And in the quiet, Kai Cenat was working. While the world focused on his Twitch records and viral moments, Kai had started building something far more permanent, something no algorithm could take away. Not just a name, not just a brand, a foundation. Because Kai wasn't just chasing success anymore, he was securing it for himself, for his people, for the future. It started with investment. Not the flashy Instagram kind, no screenshots of stock portfolios, no crypto buzzwords, real moves. Kai began sitting down with financial advisors, reading business books, asking questions behind the scenes. Where should the money go? How do you scale the platform beyond the platform? How do you build wealth that doesn't disappear the moment the numbers dip? And more importantly, how do you make sure your people eat too? Step 1. Diversify. Kai started investing in startups, especially ones led by Black entrepreneurs or creators of color. From content tools to education apps to e-commerce, he wanted to support ideas that gave others access. He didn't tweet about it, didn't vlog it, he just did it. Behind the scenes, Kai became a low-key power player, not just endorsing products, but owning equity in the ones he believed in. Step 2. Real estate. In early 2024, Kai made headlines not for buying a mansion, but for what he planned to do with it. He converted the property into a creator incubator, a space where new streamers, editors, and designers could live, learn, and create without worrying about rent or studio fees. It wasn't a hype house, it was a hub, one designed for growth, not gossip. He staffed it with mentors, offered gear, brought in industry experts to host workshops, and all he asked in return, that they pay it forward. Step 3. Ownership of himself. For years, creators had been at the mercy of platforms. Change the terms, you lose money. Ban the stream, you lose your voice. Adjust the algorithm, you disappear. Kai had seen it happen too many times, so he started building his own infrastructure. He registered trademarks, launched an independent merch fulfillment system, began developing a content distribution app, one that could eventually host live streams, drops, behind-the-scenes content, all direct to his fans. No middlemen, no platform tax, just him and his people. It wasn't about quitting Twitch or YouTube. It was about never needing to depend on them again. In one interview, he said it best, "I just want to get to a place where if every app shut down tomorrow, I still got my community." It wasn't set ego. It was foresight, because Kai knew virality is temporary. Visibility is rented, but ownership, that's generational. That mindset spread to his team. He encouraged his videographers and editors to build their own followings, helped his friends launch channels, gave game to anyone who asked. Not gatekeeping, but gifting. "I don't want to be the only one," he told fans. "I want to look around and see all my people winning." And slowly he did. By mid-2025, the KC3 brand had grown into something massive. It wasn't just a logo on hoodies. It was a media house, a consulting firm, an education pipeline. He began working with schools, hosting virtual seminars on content creation, financial literacy, and internet safety for kids in underserved communities. He didn't just want to be remembered as the king of Twitch. He wanted to be remembered as the one who changed what kingship looked like, not ruling over others, but raising them up. And yet, despite all the money, the equity, the press, Kai still did the simplest, most powerful thing. He listened to fans, to feedback, to people smarter than him. In rooms he wasn't raised to be in, he asked questions, took notes, stayed curious. That humility, the willingness to learn while leading, made all the difference. Ownership, for Kai, wasn't just about what he bought. It was about what he built, what he protected, and who he brought with him. We'll dive into Kai's influence on internet culture at large, the way his voice, humor, and energy reshaped how content feels across platforms, and how his storytelling started influencing creators around the world. But for now, we leave him here, not in front of a console, but in front of a whiteboard mapping out what's next. Because while the world claps for the streams, Kai Cenat is quietly doing something more powerful, signing the checks. Some people post content. Some people go viral. Some people entertain. But a few, they change the temperature of the internet. Kai Cenat did just that. Not with a billion-dollar brand. Not with special effects. Not with controversy. He changed things with energy, with presence, with timing, with truth. And long after his early streams faded into the archives, his influence started showing up everywhere, sometimes in ways even he didn't expect. Let's be clear, Kai didn't invent being funny on stream. He didn't invent shouting during gameplay. He didn't invent online charisma. But what he did, he remixed it. He took what was already there, rage culture, meme edits, reaction clips, and injected it with something new: culture, rhythm, relatability. When Kai screamed at horror games, it felt like your cousin screaming. When he hit a dance midstream, it wasn't rehearsed, it was muscle memory. When he talked about growing up in the Bronx, dealing with his mom, or getting clowned in school, it wasn't a flex, it was a mirror. For years, internet content was dominated by a certain tone. Polished, distant, overproduced. Kai broke that. He showed up messy, loud, unfiltered, real, and the world responded. Soon you started seeing his fingerprints everywhere. Streamers on other platforms began adding more music to their content, not as background but as vibe. YouTubers started speaking faster, cutting quicker, showing more feeling. TikTok creators leaned into chaos, not polish. They didn't just want to go viral, they wanted to feel alive on screen. That's the Kai effect. It's not something you teach, it's something you catch. Soon you started seeing his fingerprints everywhere. Streamers on other platforms began adding more music to their content, not as background but as vibe. YouTubers started speaking faster, cutting quicker, showing more feeling. TikTok creators leaned into chaos, not polish. They didn't just want to go viral, they wanted to feel alive on screen. That's the Kai effect. It's not something you teach, it's something you catch. Even marketing teams took notice. Brands started adjusting their tone, making ads that felt like streams, quick cuts, big energy, dialed-in slang. Companies once afraid of too much personality were suddenly trying to bottle the exact thing Kai gave off naturally. They wanted that Cenat spark. Some tried to manufacture it, but fans could always tell the difference between someone who was Kai and someone trying to be like Kai. And then came global reach. As Kai expanded, so did his influence. In Europe, creators referenced him as the blueprint. In Africa, fan edits paired his voice with local clips. In the Philippines, reaction channels mimicked his setups. In Brazil, meetups were hosted in his name, fans gathering to celebrate someone they'd never met in person, but who felt like family. It was no longer just about streaming. It was about culture. Kai didn't always acknowledge it. He never called himself a movement, but others did. He was the pulse of a generation that grew up online but refused to be robotic. He was a reminder that authenticity isn't a trend, it's a force. And when it shows up with confidence, it can change everything. There's a deeper layer to this too. For a long time, the internet didn't center voices like Kai's. It didn't amplify kids from the Bronx. It didn't celebrate cultural references that weren't mainstream. It didn't give stage time to black creators unless they fit a box. Kai smashed the box, and then built his own. One where culture wasn't borrowed, it was owned. Where flavor wasn't added in post. It was the base, where being black, loud, funny, emotional, and real wasn't edited out. It was central. There's a deeper layer to this too. For a long time, the internet didn't center voices like Kai's. It didn't amplify kids from the Bronx. It didn't celebrate cultural references that weren't mainstream. It didn't give stage time to black creators unless they fit a box. Kai smashed the box, and then built his own. One where culture wasn't borrowed, it was owned. Where flavor wasn't added in post. It was the base, where being black, loud, funny, emotional, and real wasn't edited out. It was central, and because of that shift, doors opened. Not just for Kai, but for everyone watching him and thinking, if he can do that being himself, maybe I don't have to change either. That's real impact. Not just content you watch, content that changes you. By mid-2025, media studies programs at universities were citing Kai Cenat as a cultural inflection point. Marketing decks from Fortune 500 companies listed him as a top example of Gen Z brand trust. Panels at tech summits asked, what can platforms learn from Kai Cenat? He was still online, arguing about serial tears, failing at horror games, and yelling at his mic like he just started yesterday. Because while the world watched his legacy form, Kai kept being Kai. We'll explore what it means when someone becomes more than human to their audience, the costs of being a symbol, the weight of millions watching, and how Kai began to protect his peace while staying present. But for now, we leave him here, not just as a trendsetter, but as a storyteller, whose greatest story wasn't what he said, but how everyone else started speaking after they heard it. Fame looks like a celebration, but sometimes it feels like surveillance. By 2025, Kai Cenat was everywhere, in culture, in classrooms, on stages, in the language of the internet itself. But what happens when everyone is watching you? When the energy that once lifted you up starts closing in? This part of the story isn't about numbers. It's about weight. The weight of being seen. The weight of being needed. The weight of never being alone, even when you're by yourself. There's a strange shift that happens when fame becomes legacy. At first you're just you, a kid with a webcam, a couple of jokes, and a few dozen people who get it. Then you go viral, then you go big, and one day you look up and you're not a person anymore, you're a symbol. By the time Kai hit the peak of his influence, he wasn't just a content creator, he was hope for some. He was a blueprint for others. He was a target for people who needed someone to blame. And he was comfort for millions who just wanted to laugh after a hard day. That sounds powerful, but it's also heavy. Every word you say, scrutinized. Every silence you keep, interpreted. Every tweet, a headline. Every mistake, a debate. And when you're the first to do something at your scale, when you're young, black, emotional, and unapologetically you, the spotlight isn't just bright, it's burning. There were moments when Kai pulled back, streams paused, posts slowed. The noise quieted not because he was bored, but because he was exhausted, not from the grind. He could handle that, but from the expectation, the unspoken pressure to always be on, to be funny, wise, mature, marketable, relatable, flawless. At the same time, in private, Kai began talking about burnout more. He opened up, subtly, on stream about not feeling like himself some days, about not wanting to be on camera, about feeling like he had to perform even when he wasn't okay. And his audience, they didn't just clip it, they heard it, because by then they weren't just watching Kai, they were growing up with him, and they could tell when something shifted behind the smile. So Kai adjusted. He got help. He worked with therapists. He set stricter boundaries. He made his stream room a place of joy, not obligation. And when things got too loud, he let the camera rest. Sometimes you just gotta log out and breathe, he said during one stream. And that's okay. It was a small moment, but it was huge, because for so long, being online meant never stopping. Kai broke that idea. He reminded people, even as the funniest man on Twitch, that mental health is not optional. That shift didn't make him less of a creator. It made him more human. He started talking about sleep, taking trips with no content plan, spending time with family just to exist, not to vlog it. He encouraged fans to do the same, to take breaks, to touch grass, to protect their peace. He even changed his upload schedule, not for views but for balance. Because real legacy isn't about staying online forever. It's about knowing when to log off and live. That choice inspired others. Creators started being more open about therapy. Fans started normalizing rest. People who once felt guilty for logging off felt permission to heal. That's the Kai effect too. Not just the catchphrases, not just the content, but the quiet courage to say, I'm tired, and that's okay. The weight of being seen never fully goes away, but you can learn how to carry it. You can build support systems. You can build rituals of rest. You can build yourself back up when the noise chips away at you. And by 2025, that's what Kai was doing. Building a new chapter. Not louder, but lighter. It started with a webcam, a joke, a kid from the Bronx making people laugh for free. And now in 2025 it ends, or rather continues, with that same kid standing in the middle of a crowd giving away gifts to strangers. That's the thing about Kai Cenat. He never stopped giving. Time, advice, platform, presence, and most recently, in April 2025, something more tangible, a giveaway that shut down city blocks and reminded the world Kai never forgot where he came from. On a warm spring afternoon, Kai made an announcement. He was going back to New York, his city, to host one of the biggest fan giveaways he'd ever done. It wasn't about marketing. It wasn't sponsored. It wasn't to promote a launch. It was just because he could, because he wanted to, because he remembered being the kid in the crowd, hoping someone would show up for him. The event took place in Harlem. Loud, alive, familiar. Hundreds gathered, then thousands. People poured into the streets. Teens with phones out, moms with kids, creators, hoping to shake his hand. And Kai, he showed up early, not with security detail and ego, but with boxes, with team members, with a smile. He handed out PS5 set, gift cards, shoes, laptops, even rent assistance envelopes, quietly given, no camera needed. For hours, he moved through the crowd like a fan himself, hugging people, taking selfies, joking like it was a Twitch chat come to life. No agenda, just love. The moment made headlines, of course, but to Kai it wasn't a PR move. It was a loop closing. I used to dream about stuff like this, he told one reporter that day. Being able to pull up and bless people, that's the real goal. And maybe it always was. Not the fame, not the metrics, but the impact, the ability to reach back. This giveaway wasn't an isolated act. It was the final chapter in a long story, one built on community, from Facebook skits at 13, to Twitch domination at 21, to empire building by 23. Kai's journey was never just about Kai. It was about the we, the friends who helped him film in college dorms, the Am brothers who grew with him, the fans who showed up in streams, even when there were only 5 people watching, the kids watching today wondering if they could do it too. So where does Kai go from here? The truth is, wherever he wants. He's carved out a path with no map. He's walked through industries that weren't built for him and built something new inside them. Acting, producing, investing, mentoring. He could pivot into Hollywood. He could disappear and live off royalties forever. He could start a school, or a network, or a foundation, and it would all make sense. Because at this point, Kai Cenat is bigger than any platform. He's a symbol of what happens when you stay yourself, even when the world asks you to become someone else. But if you really want to know what's next, look at that April giveaway. That's who he is. Still giving, still showing up, still smiling, still turning up for strangers like their family. Because for all the milestones, the awards, the headlines, Kai's story isn't one of fame, it's one of service, of joy, of growth, of gratitude, of remembering that no matter how far you go, you never leave the block behind. So now the lore ends where it began, with a kid, with a crowd, with a voice, a camera, and a heart big enough to hold a generation. Kai Cenat didn't just change streaming, he changed what it means to lead. He made the internet feel human again. And maybe that's the real legacy. Not that he was the loudest, not that he had the most subs, not even that he gave away PS5 sin and broke records, but that he never stopped giving himself, fully, freely, unapologetically. And in doing so, he showed millions of others that they could do the same.